Good morning once again, ball watchers. Jake and Justin back with you on a Friday. Love a good Friday pod and love a good preview for another weekend fixture here coming up against Minnesota, heading north to the Loons of Minnesota to take them on and see if we can fix our recent form and head into the playoffs on a high here. But Jake and Justin, we're back with you all here on Ball Watching. Like I said, it's going to be a preview episode. But before we go into the preview, Justin, a couple things to cover off on. I want to talk about LAFC really quick. A couple more reflections there. I know we got to talk about City 2. Obviously, some big news coming down with City 2. So let's start with LAFC here. My reflection on this is, we clinched with a draw with LAFC. It's not a small matter, but, since we just absolutely blew Austin out of the water 6-3 at City Park a month ago now, just over a month ago, we've played 6 games and only won 1. And that was FC Dallas at home. And these have been some close games, don't get me wrong. And a lot of them have been away against good competition, but away or not, contender or not, we definitely have been slipping up recently. And we've been let off the hook by a lot of our Western Conference opponents. So I think we need to now kind of focus, take this 4 games in a stretch in a little block here and really focus on getting our best 11 out there and our form in good shape, our winning form in good shape prior to the playoffs. So we're heading to Minnesota. They, remember, Justin, were the first ones to hand us a loss. And we're going to talk about that here. That was our first ever loss at home. It was a tough night back on April 1st. It felt like Fool's Day for us because we left just with a sour taste in our mouth. I don't know if you remember that game, but it was ugly. They came in and did us dirty, I will say.
It was an annoying one. I won't get into the details of it, but just a 1-0 game for us, complete opposite of how we started the season. And it was a PK of all things too, which I know that everybody's already feeling like everything's going against us when it comes to these calls. So yeah, not a huge fan of our first time playing these guys.
But they did just do us a solid and blow it against the Galaxy, which clinched us into the playoffs. So thank you to Minnesota for that. They are right now sitting 1 point out of wild card spot. Sporting Kansas City, Vancouver, Seattle all have a lot to play for as well. And those are the final 3 opponents on our schedule. So it's going to be a rough run in. Minnesota especially, like, they need points. And they have not been on a huge streak either, which we'll cover here. But LAFC, going back to them, they got jumped by Seattle in the standings after our game by 1 point, but they do have a game in hand. However, they now play 6 games in 28 days, concluding the season, including the Campeones Cup, which is the fixture between the MLS Cup champion and the Liga MX champion, which was Tigres last year. So can they play at that clip, basically a game every 4.5 days, and maintain form and really, really push us? We shall see. But it's going to be a tough run-in for both teams at the top here. I know Seattle is now creeping into that second spot, but we have a chance to play them at home as well. So we have control on our destiny. And you know who else has control on their destiny? City 2. What a run they're on right now.
I've been so excited to talk about this. So I was lucky enough to play some golf with AJ Palazzolo and Johnny Klein. So got to kind of hear what their thoughts were on the season. And obviously, those guys are just giddy right now with how they've been playing, but they know the job's not done. So specifically, what do they need to do right now? They have their last game. It's at Sporting Kansas City 2 on tomorrow night, on Saturday night, or on Sunday. I apologize. And so where do they sit right now? We currently sit in 5th in the West behind Sporting Kansas City by 1 point. More importantly, we're behind Austin FC 2 by 3 points, and they're in the 3rd place. So why does that matter in this playoff format? Very new and very different way that they're thinking about it this year, and I like it. So the 2023 MLS Next Pro playoffs, their new format is pick your opponent structure. Will be taking place in the first 2 rounds on both sides of the bracket. So the 1 seeds, which are already clinched up by Crown Legacy FC and Colorado Rapids 2, they'll receive a first-round bye. The remaining 6 qualified teams in the conference will kick off their playoff schedules the weekend of September 29th. So why is this all important? The number 2 and number 3 seeds will get to choose their opponent out of the remaining 4, 5, 6, and 7 opponents. And then so the last 2 teams that aren't picked will play each other. The higher seed will play each other. So we are looking to make a push for that 3rd spot. If we can't get the 3rd spot, at least get the 4th spot, and that will lock up us at least playing at home. So after that, where are we looking at? So obviously Austin FC 2 is in 3rd place right now by 3 points ahead of us. I tried looking up the tiebreaker. I don't know what it is. I'm assuming it'd be head-to-head first, and they beat us both twice, so they might have the 3rd spot locked up. If it's goals for, we have that beat. So if we beat Sporting Kansas City and Austin 2 loses, then and it's goals for, we would get the 3rd spot and be able to pick who we want I don't really care about picking who we want as much as I do about home field advantage. And that's what Johnny and AJ were talking about. If we beat Sporting Kansas City, we lock up that 4th spot and we will be playing at home again for the first game on August 29th.
That'd be fantastic. And the way these playoffs work, I don't know if you know off the top of your head, Justin, but it's interesting because they're piloting that pick your opponent playoff format. If we don't get home advantage and we're in the pool of those that could be picked from, I don't know who's picking us.
No,
we are the most difficult out right now in the league.
I will say right now, so if we tie Sporting, let's say that, and then so we end up getting 5th, I don't think we get picked by Tacoma or Austin. I think they would take Sporting, Minnesota, or the Earthquakes too, and which would likely leave us to still possibly be able to have a chance at playing at home if we don't get picked, because we'll probably be the highest seed not picked. So I will say, regardless, it's a Sporting Kansas City game. Let's go out there, let's win this game, and let's take back home field advantage. And if we don't get to pick our opponent, I don't care who we play. Playing at City Park, we're drawing 10,000 people for regular season City 2 games. Imagine what a playoff game would be like.
No, I totally agree. It's just so fun to have so much playoff already in our first year. Obviously, City 2, went to the final last year, and City 2's back this year after having a slower start to the season. Obviously the first team's crushing it as well. What a start for the franchise to be this impactful so quickly. You can't expect that of a lot of expansion teams. Before we go on to the Minnesota preview here, Justin, I do want to say, if you're listening here on YouTube, go down and throw us a like. And while you're over there, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We are growing this base. We're inching our way up to 1,000 of you, which is crazy to think about. So we appreciate all the love and support. And if you want to see our faces, YouTube is the way to do that. But also, if you're listening to our lovely voices, those sumptuous voices on your Fridays, your Sundays, your Tuesdays, whatever day we're producing content, go down and make sure you follow the show. Make sure you subscribe to the show. Leave us a rating review. We got a couple 1 or 2 stars, Justin, recently. I don't know what the vibes are here. No one explained themselves, but it'd be really nice if you all could chip in and give us some 5-star reviews. That would help the score. I have so many reviews now, so many ratings now, but we need some more reviews and getting some good ones though. So I do appreciate those people taking the time to do that.
And Jake, I'm not overly upset with the 1 or 2 stars, but if you're going to give it to us, tell us why.
Yeah, tell us.
So that we're only looking to improve here. I understand we're just 2 dudes just trying to have fun, but tell us what we need to do better.
We're here to push the envelope. If you've got feedback, would love to hear it. So let's get into Minnesota, though, Justin. So Minnesota, expansion team back in 2017. They've actually had a pretty successful, couple of seasons as an expansion team. In 2022, for the 4th year in a row, they reached the playoffs. So they're at least, in the mix in most of the first, beginnings of all their seasons. But they haven't been as successful in the playoffs as I think is that they like to be. They've reached the Western Conference semis. That's the furthest they've gone. Otherwise, they've been in round 1 most every of those playoff appearances. A notable St. Louis connection for the Loons. We absolutely fleeced Minnesota United by getting Aziel Jackson. Back in November 7th of last year, we traded up to $225,000 in general allocation money. And I say up to because I think it was 150 guaranteed plus add-ons. I mean, AZ has been a huge impactful player. I'm sure he's hit those incentives and we're going to have to pay up for him, but well worth it. I'm sure, obviously he's providing value in the field. I also feel like we're going to get some offers for him, unfortunately. So don't get too wedded to your boy Aziel, which is unfortunate. The one thing to note here is that Minnesota, in their trade for giving him to us, was they put on a 20% sell-on clause for any teams outside the United States. So that's in the back of the mind for Lutz and for any of the scouting staff and the personnel in the back office for City. If we're going to sell him, it needs to be at a good price because we're going to eat a 5th of that and have to cough it up to Minnesota.
I think that's fine. I don't even want to talk about it right now, though. Let's not talk about the guys that we've heard, like Leuven and some other guys getting some possible looks. Like I don't even want to think about it. So
I agree. So, Table it.
Let's focus solely on Minnesota. Have we played them before? Yes, we already talked about this. We lost 1-0. What happened in that game? It was our first ever loss. You already mentioned that. There was a PK in the 78th minute, and that was their only shot on target. So just an annoying game. I remember being there. I was kind of upset about it. It was a normal starting 11 at that time. So except Blum didn't start. But looking at it, we had Johnny at left, then Heber, Parker, Nowinski, Ostrak, Leuven, Indy, Stroud, Nico, and Joao. So it was it wasn't like a rotated squad. So one of the games that we did expect to win at home, and it was just kind of annoying. Rome on the PK. He said it looked like he was going to fire a rocket down the side. Then he hit it so bad it was good, which is just a cherry on top of how that game went for us. We also had 3 solid attempts missed in the 94th, 95th, and 96th minute, 2 from Adeniran, 1 from Klaus. I really wish we could finish that clinically. We'll talk about that in the keys to the game later. And then it was the first time that we really figured out by a team, and they kind of sat back and just let us take the possession and try to beat them by breaking through. They were the first team to figure that out for us after we stormed through those first 5 games, just pressing teams high.
Yeah, no, it sucked. Like, we did kind of feel like we were found out a little bit in that game. It was the first team, I think, to not be surprised by our playing style and to actually adapt and bring a very contentious playing style to us where it just didn't complement how we play. So kudos to them. They brought a great profile. I will say it hasn't really translated for the rest of their season. You know, they only have 37 points currently, 9-10-10 win-loss draw record, 10th in the West. Home record is not great. They're sitting at 3-3-8 right now, which is really surprising, but great if you're a City fan. And then away record, they've been better, 6-7-2. Goals for, sitting at 34, which puts them at 8th least in the MLS. Goals against, also 8th least in the MLS at 38. They've got some key results, though, that you wrote down here, Justin. But again, I will say I'm not overly impressed by the resume, but they've gotten the best of us. So we need to bring something different to them on the second go-around.
No, they've definitely been playing better on the road, which is huge news for us as we go up there, all the way up north. But some of the key results, they had a 1-0 and a 3-0 wins against Houston in June and July. They drew LAFC 1-1 in July. In August, they had a 1-1 draw at home versus Seattle, and then lost at Nashville 5-0. And then their most recent game was a loss at Galaxy 4-3. So it's one of those teams where I feel like they've probably beaten up on the teams they should beaten up on. But looking at that, Houston, pretty good team. Obviously, they're 5th in the West right now. But those are the 2 wins: tied LAFC, tied Seattle, and lost to Nashville, lost to the LA Galaxy. Not an overly impressive resume for them. Specifically, then when you look at their magic number, 37 points, 1.28 points per match with 5 games remaining, that would expect them to get 6 points out of their remaining games, which would not be enough for them. So basically, don't even look at them trying to get home field advantage, because that needs 14 points. Mm-hmm. That's not happening in their last 5 games. Even to get past the wild card, they need 10 points. Not likely in their last 5 games for them. Magic number for the wild card is 8 points for them. The only reason I'm getting excited is because when you look at who they have left, they play us, then the Earthquakes, then LAFC, then the Galaxy, who they just lost to, and then Sporting Kansas City, who is really fighting for a spot as well. And that will not be an easy last game for them.
No, it won't be. It will not be. But they rest the keys to their game, I'd say, on some key players. And I'll leave you the fun one, Justin. The favorite name in MLS, I will have to say. But I'm going to skip down to 2 players that we talked about here. And I think we talked about on the initial preview and recap for the first game against Minnesota. But Emmanuel Reynoso is a 27-year-old Argentinian. He's a lefty kind of attacking midfielder. Not an overly large guy, 5'7", 150. But he missed a good chunk of the early part of the season for some personal issues that I think we still have kind of a shroud over what actually happened here. But he was in his native Argentina. Apparently, he was facing some charges, or at least allegations, of assaulting a boy with the butt of a gun. I mean, some serious, serious stuff here. But he did return to the States, and he did return to the club on June 4th and made his first appearance for them back. And he's back. Like, he's back to his normal ways. He created 72 chances for them back in 2022. And this year, just with that small sample size he's been back for, 6 goals, 2 assists, 3rd in shots, 2nd in shots on target in just those 14 games. He's only started 12 of those. Fun stat here, Justin. He's number 1 in the MLS right now for expected assists per 90. And I think a lot of that's a little bit because of his sample size, but let's not take that away from him. He's a creator. He's really dangerous in the ball.
The one thing I'm going to say is, so you read it very professionally and politically correct of assaulting a boy with the butt of the gun. So that means he pistol whipped a boy.
Yeah.
Don't let Mr. Parker know that. If Tim Parker finds out, this guy is getting absolutely bulldozed in the midfield. All right, I'm going to go for it. I don't know. I put myself on mute to practice this name. Bongo Hukle Hulungweni. Not bad.
We're going to go with it.
Yep. 23-year-old South African striker. He's 6'1", 170 pounds. He has 8 goals and 3 assists for them. 2 goals in the last game versus LAFC. Leads the teams in the goals, shots, and shots on target, and he's second in assists. I will say he leads the team in shots by 35 shots. That's 35 on top of the second place guy. He leads the team in shots on target by 17 on top of the second place guy. So I would say he also leads the MLS in blocks. Like, this guy is an absolute riot up top, and I think that's going to be one of our keys to the game, similar to what we had with Mr. Dennis Buanga. And I would say that if we don't let this guy score and we kind of lock him up, that's going to be a massive key for us.
Yeah, I would agree. And finally, goalkeeper Dane St. Clair. I want to say Dwayne, but it's not. It's literally Dane. And he's a 25-year-old Canadian goalkeeper, multiple men's national teams for them. He's only conceded 2 goals in 3 games played. Oh my God. We literally copied over the last comment from last time, but Dane having a decent season. I wrote some stats down for the actual trends and storylines from him. I mean, apart from his name, he actually is a pretty promising young goalkeeper here, and especially in the Canadians men's national team pool. He's like I said, promising. 30 goals against this season for Minnesota, 7th MLS amongst goalkeepers that have played over 20 plus games. So he's been their guy between the sticks. And he led the goals prevented early in 2022. So he's been on fire at times as well. Like, we don't want to catch him at the wrong time, but I don't think he's been overly impressive either. And finally, round the team out, they've got some other names that we're going to mention here. Teemu Pukki being one of them, who they made an acquisition for a couple months ago. 33-year-old striker. Obviously, he played all over Europe, most notably recently playing with Josh Sargent at Norwich before they got relegated. And even when they got relegated, Will Trapp is still alive and well, playing for Minnesota. 30-year-old center midfielder now. He's obviously had some shouts on the U.S. men's national team camp. Hassani Dotson was an American prospect as well, kind of plays in the midfield for them. And Michael Boxall, who's a center back from New Zealand, and he's played in and started 27 games. So he's Mr. Reliable on the back line for this team. So let's get into style coaching, Justin.
I'm still kind of chuckling at Teemu Pukki.
I know.
Sure.
Great.
All right. Head coach Adrian Heath. When he was playing, he had 560 appearances in the Premier League: Stoke City, Everton, Aston Villa, Man City, Burnley, just to name a few, which is just an absolute journeyman for the DL, which is very impressive to stick around for that long. And 1 season in La Liga with Espanyol. Coaching, he coached for Burnley, Sheffield United, Coventry City, and then came to the U.S. and coached Orlando City. Relocated for the Austin Aztecs in the USL for making the jump to the MLS. And so what style does he have here? Got to make sure I get these numbers right. There's only 10 guys in front of the goalkeeper, 4-2-3-1 or a 4-4-2, which is pretty similar, I would say, to what we play most of the time. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. I think the matchup is relatively okay for us. The fun fact I saw there, Justin, when we were talking about this is, so Orlando City, he was there at the USL days. And then when they got promoted, I mean, we don't have Pro Rel, but when they got brought up to the MLS, they were actually the Austin Aztecs before that. So he was in the Austin Aztecs, and they got moved to Orlando City, and then they played in the USL there, and then they got promoted. So he was in that organization for quite a while. And he was one of those fortunes that actually made the jump up with them. Didn't last as long as I think they would have liked to have, but some additional thoughts on how he likes to play. Minnesota is going to stay super compact and play very hard to beat, just like we saw earlier this year. They move the ball forward very quickly when they win it back. So there's a little bit of a counter press sometimes with them, and they run a lot of their attacking through Emmanuel Reynoso. He's going to be the driver for this team. Like, you picture a Ricky Pooch. We talked about, a Vela or a Denny Boanga. He's the guy on this team. They take a ton of shots. They like to control the game, possess in the opponent half, similar to how we saw the Galaxy do as well. Just kind of look for those seams, look for those gaps and exploit them. Be very patient and intentional in how they play through us. So that is kind of the style of play for them. And I want to say, before we get into the trends and storylines here, Justin, obviously the giveaway, it is an elusive thing. Somehow we just cannot get a goal scorer whenever we make that our prompt. So we said we were going to transition it to this game. So what we're going to do is, how many total goals will be scored in Saturday's match? I'm not saying city. I'm not saying Minnesota. I'm saying total. So total goals. We're going to put out a post. When we put out that post, reply, like the tweet, like the Instagram, respond, give us your guess. And if you're right, you will be included to win a $50 gift card to the pitch. And what better time to talk about this lovely establishment than right now? Justin, do it.
I love to do it. And I will say, just so we know that we're not like hindering City. You can put 0 goals will be scored in the game, and you can be correct. So the only thing you can do that can be wrong is put a negative number. So, but why do you need $50 to the pitch? Why not? Jake and I were just there last night. You're going to see us on some promos with a couple of friends coming up as well. Not only for city games, they have deals now for college football games, NFL games. They're opening up for the Premier League, all the big games. You go want to see Man City, Man U, Chelsea. Also, if your team isn't on on their promo for it, they have every channel you can imagine to go sit there. Go hop on the couch, especially this weather. They just open the doors, free flowing air, great vibes, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, any day of the week. And I will be there again tomorrow for the Mizzou game. I will be there on Sunday for the NFL game. And I'll be there tomorrow for the City game as well. So get out to the pitch, get a frozen Irish coffee, get some food. Got to try so many apps last night doing that for them. So shout out to Jenny and team. Thank you guys very much. I will be at the pitch. I pretty much live there.
Just got a little cot over in the corner in a little private room back there. It's comfortable. It's snug.
One more, Jake, while we're talking about it, though, I do want to mention Soul Juice. A shout out to Luis again, opening up in Sam's in St. Louis. You can go pick it up at Sam's or at Deerberg's, or you can get 20% off if you want to order online. You can also get merch there. You can get 20% off too, not just the juice. If you want to get that cute little Korean pear on your shirt, you can use code BALLWATCHING for 20% off. Go out to souljuice.com.
And much more to come on that next week for you. I know we've been talking about it forever, and I'm sure it's a running joke now, but we actually will have a conversation with Luis, who is the owner and founder of the company. Awesome story. Got a lot of St. Louis in his blood as well. So a lot to talk about there. So back to Minnesota. Generally, this team is on wild card watch. Like I said, they're winless in their last 4. They need points. They're 1 point out of that 9 seed, which would get them into the wild card game. And 2 points out of the 8 seed. And Portland, who is sitting in that 8 seed right now, has played 1 additional game. So they have it all to play for, is what I'm saying. They just got gut punched by the Galaxy. They were up 3-1 going into halftime. And then Billy Sharp, who we scored against us, the Englishman, I think 37 years old, had a hattie. And they also got a late red card, which just undid the team. But strengths-wise, like I said, through balls, chance creation in general, this team does not struggle with that. Attacking set pieces and shooting from free kicks, they like to do that. Counterattacks, and they're a little aggressive as well. They can steal the ball and run quickly in transition. But overall, MLS Power Rankings does not rate this team, very highly. Number 18 in the Power Rankings right now, home form is draw, win, draw, loss. So only 1 win in the last 5 at home, which is not acceptable for a team that needs to pick up points. And like we said, 1.21 points per match in home games with only a +2 goal differential, which, what a flip opposite of how we've treated City Park this season.
Yeah, and I'll say I was kind of surprised when you put this in here. So their XG is 1.58 per 90, which is 6 in the MLS, and I would say that's very attributable to Pistol Whip Boy and Boko Ugly. And so I will also say that, but they don't transition as much. Their goals for per game is 1.28. That's pretty average. At home, their XG at home is 1.79, so it does increase a little bit. 17 of their 37 goals are at home, so a little bit below their average, which, is you can kind of tell that with their 3-3-8 record at home or whatever it was. I don't like these numbers again, Jake. So 24% of their goals for are in the 76th to the 90th, but then that seems like a very high percentage. And then but then looking at the first half, they average almost half of their goals for in the first half, 24% at 31st to 45 minute and 22% in the 16th to the 30th. So they are a big first half team.
They, basically they score almost 50% of their goals between the end of the first half and the end of the second half, which is just a really hard time to concede goals. So I really hope that we are able to best that on Saturday. They're averaging about 74 minutes per goal at home. Most of them coming within the 18, of course, about 6, though, outside the 18 in a sample size of 37. So not bad. They definitely pose a deeper threat. Not overly impressive in shots on target. They're about 11th, but they do average a lot of shots per 90, about 6th there. And a lot of them coming from free kicks. They're number 8 right now. They are a team that is tied for 2nd right now in goal creating actions from follow-on shot attempts. So they follow their shot, they create dangerous opportunities, and they pounce on rebounds, as well as just individual moments of brilliance. Take-ons, they create a lot of shots from. So dribble, think about Denny Bouanga from last game. Just they can take it on the foot, take it in stride, and just create danger themselves. Or like a Dinaran, for example. Like I said, they will possess in this game. They will have probably a high percentage of the possession, I would imagine, which we're okay with, unless they give us another dose of our medicine like they did before. They're not overly impressive in the number of passes they play, but they play in and around a lot the penalty area. Very comfortable. I looked at their heat map. They are going to have a lot of possession around our defensive third, and we just need to be able to close up gaps and just not make it easy for them to find those seams. So, hey, new stats, Justin. Always looking for ways to improve here. We looked at some open play, set piece, direct speed, passes per sequence. This team is number 4 when you look at XG from open play. So they can create at will when we're just knocking the ball around, not even dead balls. When we do look at dead balls, they're number 5. So they're pretty proficient in chance creation. We just saw in the notes, though, Justin, that it's just not, the finishing hasn't really been there for them, but they're not struggling to create dangerous moments. In terms of speed of attack, we're number 1 when you think about a meters per second speed of attack, how quickly we go at it. We attack at 2.14 meters per second, which is very quick. It's the top in the MLS. They're also a pretty direct speed team. They produce at 2.05 meters per second. So just think about that. The number isn't as important as the style. When they attack, they do it quickly. They also can be a little bit patient sometimes too. So that's a little bit more on the offensive side. But defensively, not their brightest side, I would say. I think offensively, I'm a little more scared.
Yeah. So looking at their defense, their XGA of 1.52 per 90 is 21st in the MLS with a 1.31 goals against per game. That's pretty average, but specifically at home, 1.28 XGA is 14th. 15 of their 38 goals against have come when they're at home, which is actually surprising because when you look about that, they're actually better at on their away games. But when do they come? 29% of their goals against come between the 76th and 90th. 24% come between the 16th and 30th. So I will say middle of the first half or very late in the game, which we talked about it last game. We had 3 strong chances in the 90th plus. We need to finish one of those. And I will say, I wish I could bet, but I could bet on us doing a second half goal. I think I might do that for this game as well. They concede every 84 minutes on average. Nothing really to talk about in shots against on target for them. They're pretty average there, but they're tied for 3rd most corner kick goals against, which is 6. And you know that Mr. Tim Parker and we saw how many head balls that Nilsson just won. If we have Sam Adeniran in there, how do you kind of track all 3 of those guys? I have no clue. They're 3rd in block shots, 8th in passes blocked, and number 1 in clearances. I don't even really know how to take that one, though. I
think it's a good thing. I mean, obviously, block shots, passes blocked, they're just disrupting their opponents and frustrating them. But clearances, I think when it comes down to it, they get the ball out. They don't mess around. They don't dribble out of pressure. They're safe and they're defensively astute in that part of the game. We talked about goalkeeping already. Looking at my favorite thing for goalkeeping is the post shot XG minus goals against, which is just a signal for how well they're performing against the quality of shots and chances. They have a -1 there, which just means like Dane St. Clair has probably allowed 1 extra goal than what was expected when you look at the stats. But not going to look too heavily into that. But keys of the game, Justin, I think home field is not necessarily an advantage for Minnesota in this game, and you can't say that very frequently. So I think we come in pretty evenly on that ground. So our last 5 away, though, not been pretty. No wins in our last 5. Loss, draw. So I guess you could say there's improvement, still not great. So we're after advancing to the League's Cup, though, quarterfinal, and just getting trounced, like you said, by Nashville 5-0. Minnesota only has 2 wins in the last 7 games played, but also 2 losses. They're drawing a lot. Weather's looking okay, maybe a little rainy, 78 degrees. Who knows? Could be snowing. Minnesota, I know, has a crazy wet weather pattern down there, up there, I guess. But finally, offensively and defensively, what do we have to do to win this game? You put it here, Justin, I couldn't agree more. You've got to start hot on this team. I think rotation is the name of this game for us as well. So I think there's a balance to strike and not over-rotating, because I think we have a tendency to do that sometimes. But this is an important game. This is really important for us to get 3 points here. I'd honestly reckon this is probably the easiest game on paper that's left on our schedule. So I do think we need to come out of this with 3 points as a goal.
It is. I will say when we're looking at our last 4 games, we have what? Do we have 3 points in our last 4 games? Is that it? Yeah. I absolutely hate that. This needs to be a ruthless one for us. And I mean, my opinion, Jake, no rotation. Then we have a full week off before we play Kansas City. These guys are professionals. This is the grind time. We had plenty of rest. We've had guys that have been injured. We got out of League's Cup early. That's when your rest was. Now you come in and you hammer this. I'll say, and how are we going to do that? How are we going to make sure that we're going to show up and win this game? We have to be clinical in our finishing. We're not creating a whole lot of chances recently with our ties and only getting 2 points in our last 4 games. We need to finish the few chances we have. And I will say chances will likely come offensively from set pieces. Use that height. I'm assuming Leuven's going to start. I'm hoping Indy does as well, so we can whip some good balls in. They're tied, like we talked about, for 3rd most corner kick goals against. Get big Tim Parker up there, get a Adeniran, get Klaus, get your head on the ball and finish these chances. You already talked about that their goalie is below average in stopping shots at a -1 PSG, -GA acronym that you love to use. But I will say that we just need to finish these chances offensively. And then as we transition into the defense, Jake, I'm going to continue to use this one, even though I hate that it's kind of a punny dad joke at this point, but no ball watching on this one. And this is more specific to their style of play. And we need to lock down 1v1 defending. They're number one in creating shots and creating actions from take-ons. And then so also they're going to be dribbling at you. So when they're dribbling at you, make sure they're not slipping someone in by ball watching. And they're also fifth most touches in the attacking third and penalty area. So they're obviously patient around that. And that means that they're looking for other guys to be cutting and making runs. They're not just standing there, just juggling the ball at the top of the 18. So no ball watching on this one.
My goals for this one, just thinking about it, I think a set piece goal would be phenomenal for offense. I think set piece goal should be a goal for us. It's something that's always going to be there, especially in the playoffs. You've got to be able to generate chances from there. And defensively, I think a first half clean sheet is good. I would like a clean sheet overall against this team. I think it's possible, and I think we just got one. So I think we should continue to try to pick these up and really sturdy up the defense. But I think it'll depend on personnel. So I do think, let's talk starting 11 here, Justin. I think rotation, I don't think you go straight back to the same 11 we just played. I think you could make some select rotating. And so where I think I would look, if I'm looking at our minutes that we just logged against LAFC, which is obviously a long game for some guys, I would think I'm going to stick with Markinick on left back. I could see maybe Carnell opting for Hebert just to give him some minutes there and give Markinick a rest because he's come in and basically just jumped straight in. I think one of Nilsson or Parker will drop out for Josh Yarrow. I don't know which one yet, but I do think maybe Nilsson just with the rug and top. I mean, the guy just got beaten on LAFC, but he played well. And then I think Jake Nerwinski comes back in for Akil Watts. And that's my back four. I think I'm most confident on Jake Nerwinski coming back in.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The only thing I agree, I think Nilsson's coming out, unfortunately. I just think he got knocked around so much and he worked so hard in that game. Parker's just an absolute tank. I think he's playing every game the rest of the season. And I think we need him to with a staple there. We can't have them both come out, but I'll put Yarrow in for Nilsson. But yeah, I'm going to hold on. I'm going to say Markinick is going to stay there. And yeah, probably Nerwinski for Watts, just seeing that he already came in. Nerwinski got a couple of minutes there. And Watts had a great game and had got to be shifted around a little bit as well. So he was running all over the field trying to defend Dennis. I don't know about Blum, dude. I think I was on the show I will be on the show with, it'll be coming out later, with Nate. And he was talking about that. He heard that it might've been a stomach issue as well with Blum, plus a knock on that ankle when he blocked that shot. So I would love to see a Leuven and Blum, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a Leuven and Indy. What are your thoughts?
I like it. I think a 4-2-3-1 is what I would go for in this game. And I'm taking Blum out of the mix there. I'm putting Indy and Leuven back in. And I'm going to have Aziel Jackson either playing centrally or out wide. And I honestly think I could be fine seeing a Denoran out wide as well. I'm not, because I look at AZ Jackson. I mean, he got pulled 30 minutes left in the game. He'll be okay, and he needs to get back onto form. That wasn't his best game. I think Klaus, you got to keep giving minutes to. I mean, just get him back into full fitness and full form. So I think one of Gioacchini or Thorson comes in to replace Blum. But I think largely I could see a 4-2-3-1 with the backline we just talked about, Leuven and Indy as the two. The three would maybe be like a Stroud on the left or a Thorson on the left. In the middle, AZ Jackson on the right, either AZ or Nico. I think you got to get Nico some minutes here as well. And then Klaus or Denoran up top. I think it's Klaus for me, and maybe a Denoran plays on the left instead of Stroud. But I think there's a way to play this where you can give some guys some select rest, but keep it going, like keep momentum going for your best players.
So I think it's going to be Stroud on the left. I know him and Nico came in the 78th. So those guys are fresh, but I think we're going to go back to Stroud. I'm going Nico Klaus. I've been waiting for it, Jake. It needs to happen again. Put Nico below Klaus there. And on the right wing, I'm going Celia Pompeo. I'm going to keep saying it until it happens, dude. That man is fresh legs, did not get any minutes last game. Let him get up there and just absolutely run around and wreak havoc on these guys. If it's not working out, pull him at half. And then we can put in and we can shift Indy up and move someone back, do whatever there. We can look at, I know Alm's not going to be there, but we can throw Ostrak in as well. He got late minutes in this game, right? So he came on in the 88th. So he'll be fresh. I just think that right side, we can just continue to throw guys in there and just press. I don't think that Sam's going to start just solely because he played another 78. That man's been logging minutes. Mm-hmm. Give me a Nico start with Joao.
Yeah, and a good shout for Ostrak too. Just the rosters has gotten deeper and deeper, but it's a good problem. But let's talk about predictions and bets here, Justin. Let's round this out. My prediction is a 1-0 dub for City, and that would be ideal for me. Just get the business done, grind it out, and another clean sheet. I would love that. The bets, the lines for this game: City's at plus 275, Minnesota minus 115, draw at plus 275. The overs at 2.5 for this one, sitting at minus 155, under 2.5 at plus 125. My bet for the game, I've got a couple here to sprinkle on. I don't think either team can afford a draw here, so I'm actually. I don't know. I'm really torn, but I kind of want to go down the path because I think it's kind of juicy here, and juicy in a good way, of a draw no bet. I want to make some money. I don't really care about pushing, and a draw no bet's at plus 180 right now. So I'm tempted to take that. So City has to win for me to cash it. And if they draw, it's a push. My other little prop bet that you mentioned, Justin, I already had it written down here, and I love that you said it, is City to score in the second half. That's at minus 135 right now, and we do that in 53% of away games. And I think that could be a chance for us to make some impactful subs, get fresh legs on, and score a goal. So I'm taking those two for me.
I'm going back to the well, and it's probably not. At some point, I'll probably learn. But City double chance, I still love it. Just for us to tie or win. So you're doing the draw no bet. What was that at? You
plus 180.
Plus 180. I'm taking the double chance, so not a push at the minus 110 there. So if we tie or we win, then we hit that there. I'll probably take the draw no bet as well, just for a little bit extra juice. And then also looking at City over 1.5, plus 165. These guys need to turn this around. We have not scored 2 goals since in either of our last 2 games. Only once in our last 3 games, and that was against the LA Galaxy game. We're not a team that scores 1 goal. If we score 2 goals, we win games or we tie games. That is my offensive key to this game. Score 2 goals. It's not that hard. We have too much offensive firepower. The defense looked incredible last game. Help them out.
Yeah, I think if we score 2 goals, we win this game. And we're in a luxury of position where the pressure isn't on or mounting for us to get to a certain spot in the playoffs. Yeah, it'd be really, really great to get to 1, and I think we should do that. But we have the luxury of now just trying to finesse our way into getting into this postseason in a good spot, mentally, physically. We need to be able to get there. And so that's in goal scoring form, everyone healthy, everyone feeling good, positive vibes. I think that's what we need to get and start that in Minnesota.
The last thing I want to say is the only reason I know it's been a long week for us with Saturday, Wednesday, now Saturday again. I don't want to rotate a squad because then if you look after this game, we go home to Sporting Kansas City. Yes, they're 11th, but still, we know that's an absolute rubber match in a rivalry. After that, then we play Vancouver away, who's 5th, and then Seattle on decision day, who's 2nd. I don't want to have to rely on getting points in those last 3 games. Get this dub with this team. The boys are professionals. Get them out there. If someone gets tired, pull them off.
You're also, Justin, I thought you were going to say this too. We're also looking at a 2-week break between Vancouver and Seattle. The international break happens between there. So October 4th and October 21st are our last 2 games. There's a good chunk of time between there. So, if you're talking about rest and legginess, you're going to get a break here coming up here shortly. So play hard, play strong, and you have that as a reward on the back end and a little bit of time for the playoffs to get it right. So I'm hoping we come into Minnesota firing. We'll be tuning in, obviously, to watch this one. It's going to be an exciting one, and I'm hoping that we can put a foot right and get out of this rut of form that we're in. And it's not awful, but let's get a win in the win column. I think that's what we need right now. Boys would love it. I think that pretty much locks us into first, just in a driver's position. So we're looking forward to it, Justin. We will be back with you all at some point on Sunday to do a recap for this game, but I hope you all enjoy on Saturday night. And until then,